everybody. Welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation, sales, and marketing success stories. I'm Jennifer Carpus Romaine, Executive Director at TMSA, which is a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professionals in transportation and logistics. And on today's show, I have Michael Campese, CMO and CXO at Estes Forwarding Worldwide. That was a mouthful that I just did there, but made it through. How are you doing today, Michael?
Great. Good to see you, Jennifer.
Good to see you too. I'm excited to have you on here because one of my favorite things to do is when I get guests is I like creep them fully on LinkedIn. And even though I've met you quite a few times, the vast knowledge that you have in the industry is really, really exciting, especially in terms of TMSA, because you've kind of done all different sides, the marketing side, the sales side, the experience side. So I would love for you just to share a little bit about your journey in logistics and where you are today.
Sure. Appreciate it. Yeah, I guess I started right out of college. I went to work for a small comb and brush company, combs, brushes, health and beauty aids up in New York. And I found myself, after about 6 months, I got the opportunity to run the warehouse and transportation department. And that's really where my logistics journey started. I was a shipper, and LTL, truckload, a little bit of importing and exporting. I had some help with that. I was young. I didn't know a thing, but was kind of trial by fire. Learned a bit about how to run a warehouse, inventory, how to work with production. So that was the beginning of it all. And then from there, decided I wanted to get on this. The sales side intrigued me. I had all these, LTL salespeople coming in and calling on me, and that seemed to be really interesting, and made a conscious decision to become an LTL salesperson. Moved out west to Arizona, started an LTL sales career, and from there, have done a bunch. It was over 30 years ago. Have done a number of different things, from local LTL sales to corporate account sales. Got into, decided I was going to try to escape from the transportation business at one time. Went back and got a master's in IT right about the time that the dot-com bubble burst. So I'm dating myself a bit. And decided that it would make sense to look inward. I was with Estes Express Lines. I'm still there today. Would look inward and see what can I use this new degree to do here at Estes. And it was at a time when the internet and our website was becoming more of a real tool, and it could do things on it. It wasn't just an online brochure. It had actual applications. Designed a role that Estes embraced and was generous enough to let me try. And from there went on. I had corporate customer service. I had sales training, outside sales at Estes. Became the VP of administration for a number of years, and then made the switch about 4 years ago over to Estes Forwarding Worldwide, which is the non-asset based side of the Estes organization, on the freight forwarding, warehousing, all the non-asset stuff, truckload brokerage, that kind of thing.
Well, I love that you tried to get out of transportation and failed.
Yeah.
I feel like once you're here, you stay here. So that's good to know. And I found it really intriguing too. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about our career trajectory, to kind of bounce around in the way that you do have to leave a company or leave a space. What about the company really allowed you to kind of make those moves? And what was that like as an employee to be able to take those different jobs?
I have friends that would joke about me, that would say I'm a guy that will drive home a different way every day from work, right? I'm as much as I'm a creature of habit in some respects, I really like trying new things and learning new things. So I think part of it was just, it's always been fun for me to try something new. I was given the opportunity, like when I was at the time running field sales and a number of other things on the sales side, and we really needed some help at Estes on the administration side. It was a bit of a project to pull some things together. I'll say my IT education and my sort of systems thinking background helped, set me up for that. But I was lucky enough to get the opportunities, and crazy enough to accept the challenge, I guess. And I do think transportation is one of these businesses too. Unlike a lot of others, you see people cross those disciplines. You'll see operations people become salespeople, and you don't see too many administrations people become salespeople, or vice versa. But it's not uncommon to see us move around a bit in our space.
I think it's really important to understand the full scope of what we do. And especially as like a salesperson or a marketing person, I think the more interest you are in the other facets of the business, the better you are in those roles. So I kind of love that you had that experience of going from one to the other. And now you are the CMO and CXO. And I really love that EFW has these roles together because they're often separated. And I feel like marketing and your experience should really be tied in together and having real alignment. So, how did you get those to be merged together? And what has that experience been like?
When I was at Estes, I had a dual role as well. I was VP for a period of time there, VP of administration and customer experience. Um, and so I had a bit of that background coming into the role. When I came over to EFW, was to run sales, marketing, and customer experience. Actually came after, I think, after it just made sense to kind of fit it in. I I think, when I think about marketing and transportation, different from consumer products. There's nobody that's driving by a billboard and they see a transportation company like Estes or EFW and they go, "Oh, I'm going to buy that." Everything, I mean, the brand is basically established by how well you take care of your customers, how well you execute, whether that's, the customer facing stuff on the phone or email, but it really comes down to kind of what's under the hood and how well you actually do the work of a transportation company. And I think, in marketing and transportation, every deal comes through the hands of a salesperson, and they're very engaged. People they don't drive by, see that billboard, and then just buy typically.
Mhm.
So I think when you think about how that fits with customer experience, a lot of people think of customer experience as customer service or that customer touch point. What I learned early I guess in the game was customer experience in our business. It's all that stuff under the hood. It's like, the waiter or waitress is customer experience, but more of that customer experience happens in the kitchen.
Mm.
And in our business, that's very, very true. All the systems, all the processes, all those SLAs on the operational side, the way our salespeople treat our customers, all that stuff goes into what effectively becomes the brand and then eventually manifests itself in customer experience. I just think it's a fit. Marketing sets the expectation out there, and then customer experience delivers, and it's a bit of a cycle. So, fortunately, our CEO was insightful enough to see that as well, and gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, I used to talk about the difference between customer service and customer experience. And I like to view it like the customer service is what you're doing in your customer service department, what you're putting out into the world and what you're doing. The customer's experience is their perception of those things. And those are two very different. And it was amazing to look at the stats and see the difference between what people thought they were doing. And it could be something so simple like, oh, we have the best phone support in the world. We are ranked so high on phone support. But if your customers don't want to be talking to you on the phone, if they want to have a portal or they want to have live chat or if they want whatever, then their experience is poor, even if you're really great in the things that you do. And so that was always really interesting to me. And I agree, the marketing you're putting out, hey, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is the experience you should be having with us. And if that isn't aligned with what's actually happening, then you'll lose customers or it'll be a mismatch because of what their expectation was versus what they ended up getting.
Yeah, for sure. I think you think about, I use the restaurant example, but like you could do everything right in a restaurant, and if the food is bad, none of it matters. You could have all the people in the front of the house doing all the right things, treating people really well, but you've got to have it's all of it. It's all got to fit together. So that customer experience, if the customer is ready for good, delicious, hot food, and they don't care that it was came in the hands of a wonderful server, they're not getting what they're looking for. So the same is true in transportation, probably a lot of businesses.
And do you have any advice for people who are still having these departments, the experience department, marketing, sales, all really siloed, when really we should be talking how you can have shared revenue goals, but all these people are in different places in that? What kind of stepping stones should they take, or any kind of advice you have for them?
I think so. My path, as I described, was kind of all over the place. So it allowed me to sit in a bunch of seats in the organization and get a feel for what it was like to work, in all those different seats, interact with customers from all those perspectives, kind of understand the systems and the processes. I would recommend that for anybody, whether, if you're in marketing, certainly if you're in customer experience, you've got to get in there and spend some time. I love the term eat your own dog food, in every one of the areas of the business, and really kind of know how it all fits together. So I think understanding how the whole, whatever your business is, whatever that machine is, it's all a big machine, how it all fits together. I believe that, everybody in an organization has some responsibility for customer experience and for marketing. I did a presentation to our whole our leadership team at EFW a number of months ago, and it was basically to get everybody to think about where is that opportunity for customer experience in their business. So if they're in human resources, it's who they hire, and it's what does that onboarding process look like? Because that person eventually is going to be, that's a huge decision. If you're a developer, and you're building software or you're building our web interfaces, it's with the mindset of who's going to use this and how's it going to feel and how much time are they going to have to do whatever it is you're building. So I think that having that diversity of background, curiosity for how the business works, really getting into that, get under the hood, and then look for ways to where it all fits together. I agree. Silos, it's easy to I'm just going to cook my little piece over and hand it over here. And then you don't realize once you give it to them, they dismantle it and arrange it a different way. And then, it's like, well, wait a minute. If we had a conversation, we could actually make that better. I think marketing has an opportunity to talk about how well a company does those things. I think the great companies out there, service, providing companies, they do that stuff well. They connect well from department to department and role to role, and they see the big picture.
I agree. I think it's really important. I love what you talked about, just those connecting pieces, and marketing has the opportunity to tell that story of how well things are going, or what you're doing, or what that line is. Because I do think that people are like, oh, how can we be different going to market, or what does that look like? And I think marketing needs to have exposure into what's actually going on. And that's from the customer experience, from a perspective employee experience too. Like, we're seeing more alignment between marketing and HR now, because what are we putting out on social media? And I was thinking about that too. Like, if you are highlighting what your company culture is, and then that doesn't align, well, that's bad. You don't want people who aren't going to uphold your company values, and you want to find good fits. We don't want to spend all this time training people that aren't good fits for our company. And a piece of that is marketing, understanding the business. I like when you're talking about the food prep too, because I was thinking, like, yeah, when the best food is when you come together as different people and you throw the seasonings that you like in and the spices that you like in, and then you cook together and have that camaraderie. It's always the best output. So I like all your analogies. It's like you are a marketer or something.
I'm kind of an analogy junkie. Anybody who knows me is like, they go, oh, here's another dozen analogies every meeting we have. So yeah, I can't help myself.
I love it. So In terms of things that are going on in marketing sales experience, we're halfway through the year already, which seems crazy to me. But I'm curious, like, what trends are you seeing? What should people be preparing for back half of this year going into next year?
I think, well, we're hearing all kinds of things about AI. AI is everywhere we turn, and every program, that anyone's selling is kind of baked with AI in it. And if it's not already, it's going to be in there. Um, so on the marketing side, lots of personalization, data oriented, kind of data driven, personalized marketing. Um, Augmented, enhanced by AI to the point where it's becoming hard to tell like what's real and what's not. That's a whole other conversation. But
Mhm.
um, but I do think that a lot of the data that we're getting, we're seeing more having the ability to remember things for our customers that they would otherwise have to remember for themselves, be a little more prescriptive. Um, deliver some better insights because that are more specific to certain customers of a certain profile, certain personas. So that's a bit of a trend on the CX side. Again, AI. You're seeing, yeah, everybody's trying to build the perfect chat bot. I've yet to meet it. I don't think I've met a chat bot I really like, or definitely haven't met one that I love. But
Mhm.
that's going on. So, the whole CX world, that's the other thing too, is when we think of CX, I was at a conference, a CX conference not long ago, and it was really what it was a lot of call center folks or contact center folks trying to figure out how do we implement, chatbots and AI in our solutions to, do more with fewer people and be quicker and just, and they're all struggling with it. So I think on the customer facing side of CX, we're seeing a lot of that and people trying to figure that out. What I like on the CX side and some of the trends are leveraging that technology, leveraging AI, leveraging a lot of the horsepower now that's being built to enhance decision making and rules behind the scenes and removing kind of links in the chain, shortening the um, just the length of time it takes to get stuff done in the kitchen, so to speak, to deliver a better product ultimately. So some of those are. I just keep coming back to AI. It's a lot of
Mhm.
what I see. A lot of content creation. Again, with all that content creation out there, there's also a lot of noise. So I think the smarter marketers and companies are figuring out ways to not just flood the market with junk and with content for the sake of content and SEO, but they're actually coming out with true thought leadership and points that people look at and go, you know what, I think this is a real person writing this, and I learned something. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping we see more of that as the world gets flooded with just bot driven content.
Yes, I think one of the most important pieces it to right now I almost feel like we need to go back to the basics and remember why we do marketing and why we do sales. And it is about that experience. So when we're talking about AI, how can we utilize that or any technology to increase the experience? How to, like you said, our customers don't have to relay information. I really love like sentiment analysis. If you can tell somebody is very angry calling you, like I would love the tools that would send that to your most empathetic customer support staff member because and utilize their skill sets, or like if someone's really strong on problem solving or like rerouting things or whatever, being able to better match your team to their skill sets, to being able, like, that's the stuff that's really.
That's a great application of it. You're right, and that stuff that exists. There's some tools out there that are doing that now very effectively.
And so those are the things that gets me really excited. And I think because it's about how do we utilize, like, I think the conversation with AI is always like, oh, is it going to take over our jobs? I think that people still want to buy from humans. People still want to interact with your team. It's how can we use those tools to make them more effective and allow them to be more human. And be able to have those like real conversations and make people feel good. Like, yeah, if there's something wrong with the shipment or a load, somebody wants to talk to a person in here, hey, we're really sorry this happened. These are the steps we're doing to make sure that it's getting there properly now and that it won't happen again. They don't want to have to like speak to an operator 18 times to find that. And so I like when I say go back to basics, it's kind of what I'm meaning. Or saying, yeah, so much content creation, so much stuff going on, it's a lot of noise. What is the purpose? What are we doing this marketing for? What is the campaign supposed to be? Who are we trying to target? And through those things, I think we can get stuck in our hamster wheels a lot and just be like, oh, we have to make videos, we have to make blogs, we have to do this, but why? Why do we have to do all those things? And so I think it's really important to sit or like, okay, I'm a marketer. How can I support my sales team? What collateral am I building for them that will actually help them in their role? When was the last time I went on a sales call and heard their pitch to make sure that the marketing is matching that, or heard the sentiment of customers and prospects right now in this market as opposed to last year when they may have been on those calls? I think things like that are really, really important. And I think the things that we forget to do sometimes.
And you bring up a good point. You can't strip the people out of the equation because like all this tech and all this AI. I mean, it's all trying to do what people have been trained to do. A lot of I like it when it takes really boring, mundane work that really nobody likes doing, and it automates that, and then it allows us to train those people up, and they can become that engaged, authentic person that you get on the phone and you go, oh, I got somebody who sounds like, they care and they want to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with somebody at a higher skill level. And I think a number of industries have run through a bit of an evolution around that. It's kind of like years ago, if you look at financial services, and I see transportation as having a similar path. Financial services, there used to be a lot of transactional folks in financial services, just like selling you a stock, doing the trade, executing it's just sort of a buy sell type of thing. That's really transformed into you deal with a certified financial planner now, or you deal with technology. The technology kind of does your transactional. And when you're ready to speak to someone who can really help you kind of invest and answer the tough questions, they're there, but they're operating at a higher level. And so I think in logistics services, we're kind of going through that same sort of transformation. Find that stuff that's mundane and repetitive and boring, automate that, elevate the game, and make sure that those really good people are still there for our customers when they show up and they want to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, I'm sure our employees are also concerned. Well, what does my job look like? This market is really tough, all those things, and having them as a piece of that conversation, showing them where they fit into the overall structure and the process, I feel like can be reaffirming to them too. And yeah, and like we're giving you the tools to be more successful, not to take over.
I think I've read this and heard this a few times when the conversation comes up, am I going to lose my job to AI? I would say, well, I think you're going to have to learn to leverage AI in your job, because what you're going to lose your job to is someone who does that better than you, right? That's the challenge. How do we all learn to use this new tool to make us more efficient, make us better, make us without allowing our brains to atrophy? That's the part. It's like, it's so easy to just go, hey, write this email for me. Like eventually we're all going to forget how to write an email, I think maybe, but hopefully not. But we've all got to be willing to, I think, let go. It's hard. There are there are technical people in on the creative side of marketing, for example. If you're a photographer, if you're a graphic designer, if you're a SEO person, it's tough because if you're a purist around that and you're not willing to work with some of the tools that are being created now, you can they can move quick. You're going to have somebody else who's going to use them and be able to get 3 or 4 times more done than you can, and with the same resources. So I think it's going to be, how do we figure out how to leverage all of that and not lose the art of it, but make ourselves, be able to do more with less. And it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And at the end of the day, like we're the experts of what we do, and the tools we use should help that, including AI. And that's yeah. I hope I never forget how to write an email. But have I ever put this is the email I'm trying to write into ChatGPT? Well, of course I have. Sometimes your brain is just misfiring and it will start it for you, and then I edit it and I go, no, this isn't actually, or like this is nothing to do, or sometimes I'll just ask it questions about TMSA and see what it comes up with, because it's just like funny to me as a game. But I think those things are really important, but at the end of the day, I'm the one who knows about TMSA, not the computer. Like I am the one that can fill in the blanks and make sure that it all makes sense and it aligns with your messaging and your brand voice and all of those other things. I think that's really important too, that we're not forgetting our own skill sets and how we, but I agree. Yeah. If it makes somebody more efficient and we can move faster, it's the same as, okay, I'm sure when CRMs first came out, people were like, I mean, I know I worked for a CRM implementation company, like the resistance of people putting the data in, they're like, this is my livelihood. If I tell you not to call Steve before 10 a.m., what am I going to do here? But it just makes us move faster, and utilizing the tools to make us more successful, I think, is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And then using the tools you're investing in too, because I think that's the other side of the conversation, is sometimes now AI is everywhere and you can make it do anything you want. And what are we actually investing in? And I'm curious, from your perspective on all sides of the business, what are some of those AI tools, or maybe just even technology tools, that you are seeing worth investing in right now?
Chat GPT in its kind of raw form has been a big part of what I'm personally doing. I'm a paid subscriber, so the new one that's out, I don't know if it's 4. There was 3.5, then there's 4, then there's 4.0 or 4.0 or something like that. Um, it'll do amazing things. I mean, it'll create images. It'll of course, do all the writing and editing, and you know. If I've got to write a press release, I might use that to do a first draft to give me some structure, and then kind of come back and work on it from there. Our agencies don't like to hear that, right? If you're a PR agency, you don't like to hear that. So more integration of that generative AI. I think tools like Canva and Adobe. Adobe just came out with their kind of light, I forget what it was called, but it was like Express or something like that. That's got, we've just experimented, not to make an Adobe commercial, but we've just experimented with it a bit in terms of just looking at the quality of some of the images and some of the stuff. Depends on what you want to do. If you got a lot of people in it, some of them are going to have 12 fingers and 8 toes or whatever, but landscapes. And so we've played around with some of that. You mentioned CRM. We're very recently kind of reinvested in Salesforce CRM, and they've got their AI as Einstein, and beginning to train that to help salespeople move a little quicker, help them kind of find the right words. Whether I like it or not, it's showing up even in my email client, and Copilot, right, on all the Microsoft stuff. So I would say we're pretty early in the game in terms of investments. I think on the Estes side, on the asset-based side, where they're investing in things like a lot of route optimization and load planning, where they have 50, 60,000 shipments a day. It's becoming a bigger part of a lot of the analytics and a lot of the tools that they're using to kind of drive a lot of those efficiencies. So under the hood, on the operations side, it's going to become a game changer too for a transportation company. On the marketing, customer experience side, no chat bots just yet for us. On the EFW side, definitely on the marketing, just here and there, using it to kind of edit and maybe inspire some content. And then we're probably in a similar place than as a lot of folks out there.
I mean, there's just so much. And You almost want to be like, okay, let me play around with this a little bit, see if I like it, see if this is filling the need I'm hoping it to be. Because okay, what is your team skill deficit, and how can maybe this AI component or this technology tool help branch that? So I think being safe, because you also, I feel like a lot of times when something new and fancy comes out, we just invest all of our dollars, and then it just doesn't do what we need it to do, and then we have to justify why we have it. So I think starting smaller, really getting into, there's a lot of free options, and then if you really like it, you can go to the paid options and then kind of go from there. I think that's a really good strategy.
There's a lot of horses in the race now too. It's kind of
Mhm.
like, I'm old enough to know what the search engine game looked like back in the day with Ask Jeeves and all the competitors out there that were, everybody thought were going to be the top of the heap, and obviously Google has won that race. But yeah, I think it's going to be similar.
Mm. Very cool. Okay, one last question for you. I like to ask everybody that comes on the show, if you could go back in time and advise a younger Michael, and this could be personally or professionally, when would you go back to and what would you tell him?
Um, that's a loaded question. So many places I'd go back and go, whoa, stop, hold on, hold the phone. Everybody just press the pause button. No, I think professionally, um, you know, I probably would. I'd go back into my maybe my mid 20s, um, and inspire a little more risk taking. I mean, although I did, I mentioned I started on the shipping side of things and then picked up from New York and moved to Arizona and changed kind of the side of the house. But there were a few opportunities probably where uh, to be a little more, to take a few more risks, to be a little more entrepreneurial. It seems that whenever I've done that in my life, and I've kind of almost been forced to take that leap, and I've done it, it's always been a good thing, right? So I probably go back somewhere in my maybe mid 20s, early 30s, and just a little more risk.
Mm,
Because
interesting.
it's harder to do that as you get a little further in your career. You're risking more. You've got more people that care about those risks that you take, and so I would say, particularly anybody who's young in their career, maybe even before they're married, before they have kids, and it's kind of just them. I know a few folks, that have been on my team that are kind of out there on the trail and traveling like rock stars and having a good time and meeting all the people and seeing all the things. Like, do that, as early as you can, and get out there and have those experiences. Yeah, that'd probably be it.
I think that makes sense. I think about, I went skydiving in my 20s, and now as like a mom, I think about if I would ever do it again. You think more about, the value of your life a little bit, than you did when you were silly. But I do. I'm so glad I had that experience for sure. So glad I did that then.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's it's that's the balance, but that's just, I guess that's responsibility, right? You got other people that kind of depend on you and care about whether or not you jump out of an airplane. Not so
I
much about whether or not you jump, but whether or not you land appropriately.
Correct. Yes. I just remember my parents being like, don't tell us the day you're doing it. But then they called me every day. I was like, I will call you when I'm back on the ground, but they couldn't wait. And then they were also so funny because they were so like told me I was crazy, but then literally any person who came to our house, they would show the video too because they thought it was cool. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, once you're safe and all, oh,
Once
check
I
it
was safe,
out,
then they would talk about it. But
my brave
well,
daughter.
yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show today. If you are watching the show and are interested on appearing on the show, you can scan this QR code up in the corner. We would love to have you. And we also have an event coming up in October, October 10th through 11th at the W Hoboken in Hoboken, New Jersey. So that is our executive summit. So that is geared towards our C-suite, our director and above in budget season, thinking about. So if you liked this chat talking about trends and stuff, that's where we continue all of those great conversations with people who are making those choices and those decisions and wanting to talk more. We will have TMSA also does a benchmarking study every other year, and we will be presenting what we find in that benchmarking study at that event. We'll have a sustainability speaker coming and talking about that. All kinds of really great and exciting stuff that I cannot wait to fully release to everybody. But if you want more information, you can scan it there or go to events.tmsatoday.org. And then we also will be announcing the Mountain Movers. We're accepting applications for one more month for the Marketing Sales, that is a mouthful. Marketing Mountain Mover Award and the Sales Mountain Mover Award. So if you would like to nominate yourself or somebody else you know, go ahead and scan that QR code and get them submitted for our top sales and marketing professionals. So thank you, Michael, for coming on the show today. I love talking about the customer experience. I think that was where I lived before I came to TMSA. So it gets me excited when I get to get that part of my brain flowing again. And it was great to have you. Thank you for all your insight.
Great to be here.